Hello everyone and welcome to my Mass Effect videos page. A lot of you guys might remember me from my Mass Effect 2 videos. I didn't really do anything for Mass Effect 3, but with the coming of Mass Effect Andromeda, it's been out for a couple weeks, and the profile system, I feel like it gives a really good opportunity to do some fun builds and really explore some different and fun ways to play your character. I'm having a lot of fun with it, and the first thing I wanted to do was obviously do a Vanguard build, which is always my favorite. And I've played around with a bunch of different builds. I feel like the Annihilation Vanguard was a lot of fun. I've done Vanguards with Cloak and other things that you couldn't do in the other games. But I wanted to try a really tried and true full Vanguard build, and this is the one that I ended up having the absolute most fun with. Now, just to be clear, this is probably not the best Vanguard build in terms of damage and viability on Insanity. You can play it on Insanity. It is a little tougher, but of course, I always like the challenge of that. This one though is probably best played on hardcore. It doesn't get the shield regen that the other Vanguard gets. It doesn't have the damage that the other Vanguard gets. And while the average enemy is pretty easily dispatched with this build, the playing the bosses like the destroyers and whatnot just end up taking a lot more time. So with all the build videos that I plan on doing, I will tell you whether or not I think they're viable on Insanity. This one is. It's just not going to be. The battles will end up taking a lot longer if there's a boss involved. That being said, I think Insanity on this game kind of feels a little more like Insanity on Mass Effect 1, where the only real difference is that the enemies they just become bullet sponges, and so there's not really a difference in terms of more armor or different types of enemies that get thrown at you. It's just basically the same enemies. They just all become bullet sponges, which I'm not the biggest fan of that design choice, but whatever. So for this build, I did not go the Annihilation route, which I know is pretty popular and is actually a really strong build, and I do like that build. But for this one, I actually went with being able to charge as absolutely much as possible, full power damage, and really not that much weapon damage. As a matter of fact, on my kit, I have it spec'd so that my power damage is increased at the cost of weapon damage. And once I get the AVP points to be able to reduce the negative effects of that, it'll be a little bit better. And then this build actually will probably be a lot better on Insanity once I can upgrade my armor and my weapons to level 10 instead of, I think they're at level 6 right now. So with that being said, let's jump into the actual build. If you see here, I've got a whole bunch of different things in biotics, and that's mainly because I've got multiple profiles, which the first one being the typical Vanguard. The second one is going full adept, and then the third one I've got turbocharge on it, and I haven't even used it, but I play about 95% of the time with this right here, and then with really big bosses and things that really I can't charge at. I switch over to this and pull out my Revenant and take care of them that way with a lot of explosions. But going back to the actual skills for this build, if you can look over here, I've got Charge, Nova, and Throw. The Charge is your primary weapon, you could say. I take these three, which are obvious, you have to. Always take damage and force. I'm not going to be going or speccing for weapon damage, so I want more power damage. And then Shock Trooper is really the way to go on this build. The 75% recharge speed is crucial to really being able to have as much chaotic fun as I like to have with this build. And while Bastion 90% of the time is the better route to go because of the extra damage, the extra shields, and the damage resistance, for this build we're going full on recharge speed. We want to charge as much as possible. From there we're going Nova, kind of like the Mass Effect 3 Vanguard. Although this Vanguard is not the invincible juggernaut that the Mass Effect 3 one was. I want these three naturally, and then I want to go damage and force. I take anti-shield because if I'm dealing with tons of armor, I can always switch to my adept and start doing explosions that way. But then I take seismic nova so that I can prime them for follow-ups with either my next ability, which is throw, or with another charge. And so throw, I'm going to go with damage and force. I want to go with duration because I want to be able to throw someone and then follow up with a charge and detonate that. And instead of getting the double throw, I want the extra combo detonation damage. Now when we're looking at barrier, we want the extra shields. We want max shields with a biotic effect. So actually either one of these would really be good. It doesn't really matter, but with this one, I get a little more extra shield when I've got somebody primed with either Nova or Throw, and then shields restored on biotic kill. Almost all my kills should be biotic kills, so that 10% is going to be really helpful, as opposed to this right here, which requires me to be almost dead, which I don't like to do. Offensive biotics, I'm going for recharge speed, detonation damage, and then plus 30 biotic damage because I plan on charging and then biotic ability, charging again. So I should constantly have this plus 30 biotic damage bonus going on, which if you were going annihilation, you would want this right here. On containment, I want my effect radiuses larger, so my Nova is better. I want combo damage versus shields as opposed to knocking them down. And then event horizon, my area of effect and force. So the only really downside to this build is that in open world kind of battles, you end up chasing your enemies around a lot because of the damage and force. The force really throws them all over the map. Inside buildings and in more contained areas, it's a lot easier. But outside, you'll be chasing people around, and you'll see that in just a second when I get into the actual video of me playing. Here, I took assault rifles. All of this is really up to you once you reach a certain level. But what you want to do is you want to make sure that your shotguns are leveled up. I've got spare ammo and clip size. These really don't really matter as much. Just going for the extra damage here. And the reload, I don't take reload speed because every now and then I either have the ability to where it reloads automatically at the cost of 5% health, or I use a shotgun that doesn't take that long to reload. I do like the extra clip size though. That's pretty much all around helpful. And then the spare ammo, I feel like especially on the harder difficulties, the ammo is always a pain in the butt. If I don't have the upgrade that lets me use my health, this helps out a little bit. Combat fitness, I go with regeneration over consumables. I go with the weapon clip size and spare ammo. I don't need the extra holster, and I don't need the weapon weight capacity. And then low damage resistance because I am almost never in cover. Lastly, with combat tools, this seems like an irrelevant skill line, but I actually use evasion a lot, and so I like the 100% damage resistance. This right here, I don't really care. Either one, I don't have any combat detonators, so I'm just not going to pick this. And then this one right here, I like because of the damage resistance while airborne, and I really don't care about anything else. It's just that I'm airborne a lot, and I like the damage resistance. Lastly, I have assault rifles for when I switch to my adept build, and this is really the headshot bonuses and everything that I like. Either one of these are good. This is actually a really good ability because it will reduce their damage resistance by 24%, which is actually quite nice. So with all that being said, this is my build, and I like to take Cora, mainly because Cora has cryo ammo, and with her charge, she ends up being pretty tanky. And I like to take Drac because I like Drac. He's just a totally awesome character, but he also has incendiary rounds, and he's a Krogan, which means he's pretty much automatically on my team in this game. So with all that said, let's get into some action.
Earth had formations like this. Made a lot of kids think
Now, as we get into the
Mars.
action, I want you to notice a couple of things. First of all, almost all of my damage comes from my 3 abilities, which is going to be Charge, doing the majority of my damage because I use it the most. Then it comes from Nova, which works really well with these guys because a lot of them have shields. And thirdly, it's going to come from not necessarily throw, but anytime I get a biotic combo off of throw. So that would be either by throwing somebody that I just knocked up with Nova, or by charging into someone that I threw. The shotgun provides kind of just damage for when everything else is on cooldown or I see a good opportunity to use it. The way this is specced is you want to go power over weapon damage, and then you want recharge over power, just because you want to be able to charge as much as possible. Finally, as we're getting up to these guys up here, you'll notice that everybody kind of got thrown around the map all over the place. Same thing happens here. Now, if you watched my Mass Effect 2 videos, a lot of times I made it seem pretty easy, but that was because I knew the map so well. I played it so many times. I knew where the enemies would be. I knew what they would do. And I had complete control over my squad mate abilities. So Mass Effect Andromeda doesn't really allow you to do all that. It's a lot more chaotic, which I actually like. It makes every encounter a little bit different. But it lets me really just kind of go crazy on all these guys. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going to happen. So I'm just depending on being able to charge and charge and charge. And if you notice here, there's a lot of chasing, which is the one downside to this build. A lot of chasing all the enemies every time I use my charge or my throw, because they just kind of get thrown all over the place. If this was a map that was indoors, it would be a little more controllable, but because it's not, I end up just having to chase the enemies down, which on the bright side, it gives me kind of a chance to regroup a little bit as I'm, catching up to where everybody's at once I've kind of left the center of the battlefield. But now I'm going to Site 2. I'm going to fight the encounter with the first Fiend, and this is a little more contained. But at the same time, it's a little more intense because I not only have to deal with all the Ket running around, I've got an enemy that if I get too close too often, he will grab me and insta-kill me, which has happened to me a couple times. I'm not gonna lie, there several times while playing my first playthrough, I just got grabbed constantly because I was just charging way too much, which I do right here. But with the addition of the dash, it kind of lets me get in and then get out. And here we go with this. This is the first real difficult encounter that you have, outside of being level 1 on Insanity on the first planet. The other thing to notice is I am using the Cryo Gauntlet. That helps out a lot against unshielded foes. Immediately freezes them and then allows me to do any one of my abilities that can do combo damage. So throwing in a melee every now and then is actually pretty handy with the Cryo Gauntlet. You'll get a little more damage out of any other weapon, but you won't get the crowd control that you will from the Gauntlet, which is quite nice. So that kind of wraps up everything I have to say really on this build. It was a lot of fun. It is viable on Insanity. It's just going to be a little harder on the bosses because they're going to take so much time to drop, especially destroyers. They don't. It doesn't get hard in terms of you have to be more careful or anything like that. They just become bullet sponges, and you either end up running out of ammo all the time, or you're just shooting and shooting and powers until it's over.
We're clear. No wonder Site 2 failed. Brazilian or not.